Awesome. So we'll start off with Steve.
Okay, well, afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking some time out to be on this today. I hope you will all find this insightful. My name is Steve Bradbury. I run our Advanced Solutions division at Ingram Micro. So I do appreciate you joining today. Ingram Micro is constantly pushing boundaries to bring more of the latest technology available to channel partners and help. Our goal through innovation is to take these new solutions to you in conjunction to the end user and make this as seamless as possible. So we've developed a joint engagement model with a various range of services, which clearly we'll cover in more detail today. But one of the key areas we're focusing on is the industrial sector, where we're excited to be partnering with Thinaer. Recent years, industrial IoT has become increasingly critical as businesses grapple with challenges like skill shortages, rising costs, supply chain disruptions, etc. And I think now Ingram Micro is in a really good position to help partner with you across these unique opportunities as we offer solutions that address these pain points. As you'll say today, we're here to support you in that journey every step of the way. We have a whole range of services that can support you with that, especially in what is a relatively new space for a lot of partners that will be listening to this today. So to showcase the transformation of this power of Thinaer Industrial IT Solutions, we're joined by Bob Donnelly, who's EVP of Sales, Bryce Merkling, who's VP of Product. But there's nothing more relevant to bringing this to life as well. So we have a special guest on for us, who's Garrick from Unilever, and he will be able to show you how Unilever is already leveraging what Thinaer Industrial Solutions can do. So I hope by the end of the session you'll have a better understanding of what is available to you and how we can help widen your capabilities into your customer base. So for me, I'd just like to introduce you now to Prankit, who is our product manager for our intelligent automation team, and he will start the process.
Thank you very much for that, Steve. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Before we dive into the Thinaer offering and the case study, I wanted to spend a little bit of time in the beginning just talking about the current state of the market and just to help, I guess, set the backdrop for the rest of the session. So it's no secret that the industrial sector has been facing a few difficult years and continues to face certain challenges, including things like rise of costs and shortages of skilled labor, as well as various supply chain disruptions. And on top of it, most of these organizations also have other initiatives, things around ESG, goals around net zero. And so in order to really survive and I guess thrive in this environment, the organizations tend to follow these three key steps. Now, they might have their own framework to deal with it, but it often kind of boils down to step one being reduce. So that's kind of all your cost-cutting measures, reducing the number of components required in the device if you're manufacturing, reducing the size of your forklift fleet, the energy that you're consuming, or even the footprint of the overall factory or warehouse. And once these cost-cutting measures have been put in place, organizations then look at optimizing the processes that they're left with. So, how can you make those processes more efficient, faster, and get rid of a lot of the bottlenecks around the warehouse or the facility? And the last step tends to be automation. So that's where organizations look at, automating tasks end to end, reducing a lot of the human touch points, enhancing the efficiency of those processes. And it makes sense because, you don't want to end up automating something that you could have reduced in the first stage. So this tends to be the directional flow as organizations go around achieving the various goals and targets. Now, I think we can all agree that in order to do any of this, or in order to start this journey, end users need to have good actionable data. So they need to have a good understanding of what are things that they can reduce, and where are the opportunities to optimize, and how they can automate their processes. And really, this is the heart of the discussion today, right? This is all where, if you forget all the technical details, IoT is about, giving end users that actionable data, giving them the ability to make these data-driven decisions, because essentially the decisions they make in this space has a large impact on the overall, business and organization. Now, just talking about data-driven decisions, if you look at sort of the current state of things, you can see a large number of end users don't really make data-driven decisions that frequently. At least they realize that they don't. 47% of end users that were surveyed said that they use data only occasionally, and they said that a lot of the data is siloed, whereas 44% sort of felt overwhelmed or only slightly confident in using the data, even if they had data available to them. So it's also important, how you present the information, and you're not just sort of handing them a bunch of CSV files or files that they're not actually able to make sense out of. And we see a lot of emerging themes as well around sort of poor visibility on factory processes, having distributed resources. Now, a lot of this might already be familiar in the conversations you're having, and the work maybe you might already be doing with them. But essentially, we see this as a big theme. But the positive is that the end users, especially in the industrial sector, are becoming increasingly educated, right? As you can see, 86% of the surveyed manufacturing executives said that they believe that smart factory solutions and solutions like we're going to talk about today will be one of the primary drivers of competitiveness. And I think especially in the industrial sector, end users starting to realize that IoT is not just sort of a luxury or a nice to have. It's really becoming a necessity because of all the reasons that we listed earlier, right? All those decisions that they need to be able to make. And looking at the end user space, right? We're in a space now where the market's a lot more educated. You can see 85% of UK organizations that were surveyed in 2023 said that IoT is a priority for them. And 91% of those organizations also had planned a budget increase in their IT budgets to account for these IoT initiatives. So these end users, they're actively starting to look for these solutions. They're learning about them. And this is why we feel that as partners of Ingram Micro, you're sort of perfectly positioned to then take and introduce these solutions to your end users. And, I want to just focus on this because introducing IoT into your portfolio is not just about adding another vendor, but it's really a new line of business. It's a brand new stream. And there's a lot of potential to build solution and service wraps around the IoT solution so that you end up introducing new sort of annual recurring revenue into your business. It's also a great way to attract new customers, customers that wouldn't have traditionally come to you, but because of IoT, they might be attracted to your organization. And again, it also helps your existing line of business as well, just having a growing customer base. And lastly, a lot of the work that we've been doing with our partners has also been around sort of re-engaging some of the older, bigger clients that they have on their books, and being able to add more value to your existing customers and being able to add an element of differentiation. So, hopefully this sort of sets the context of why we're here today and why we feel that's very important. We're talking to you about this, and that you can sort of leverage Ingram Micro and our vendor partners like Thinaer to really introduce some of these solutions to your end users. So without further delay, I'd like to hand over to Thinaer. They have a phenomenal solution stack that helps solve a lot of the challenges that we spoke about that we'll sort of dive into today. So yeah, I'll hand over to Bob.
Thank you, Prankit. So we're going to talk a little bit about our company today, Thinaer. So who we are, what we do. So what we're going to talk about is a couple of things. One, Thinaer is a full service end-to-end software as a service platform that really focuses on driving efficiencies into our customers' operations. So by driving efficiencies into the operations, we do things like reduce waste, reduce cost, improve productivity, which improves revenue or path to revenue. So those types of things, by improving the operation, improves the customer's bottom line. In addition to being a software as a service platform, we're also a data as a service platform. So we work with our partners like Ingram Micro to send the data to analytics type platforms, where not only then are we working in the here and now to solve their operational issues, but we were also taking a look at examining the data to take a look at root cause of problems and putting remedies in so these problems do not reoccur, which just makes the platform or just makes their operation that much more efficient and, again, that much more effective in terms of driving down costs and improving revenues. We are based in the U.S., but we've also are established in the U.K. So the data that we're talking about today for your customers will not reside in the US, it will reside in the UK, just to make that point clear. We're working on some other things right now, so we're all ready to go with that. As you can see on the right side, we're trusted by global leaders. We do a lot of work with AWS and Microsoft Azure, not just utilizing their cloud, but also working with their organizations to figure out, again, how do we solve problems for their customers, but also increase the traffic that goes through their cloud environments as well. So we've got really good working relationships with them. We'll also talk a little bit about what we're doing with HP Aruba. You can add Juniper to that because eventually that's going to be one and the same, and Cisco Meraki and what we do at the edge with those organizations. But really the crux of today is to talk about like real life use of what we do. So Bryce Merkling, who was introduced earlier, is going to talk about kind of all of our customers and the different use cases to highlight how our platform is being used. And part of that is going to be with Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin is our largest customer. They have hundreds of thousands of sensors that are communicating with our platform every second, basically. So, we'll talk a lot about that. In addition, Garrett Galliard, who we're really excited to have on this as well, is going to talk about the Unilever journey within the IoT space. So Garrett will take you through kind of problem identification to where IoT fits, how they work with Thinaer, what the outcomes have been, and then even taking a look at, kind of what's next. So we're going to go through that as well, and that's going to be the majority of what we talk about. So next slide. So Prankett mentioned some numbers there in terms of, in terms of adoption, basically, of the IoT functionality. And it's, again, it really hasn't been adopted probably as quickly as maybe I thought. But the solutions absolutely need to be easy to implement. They need to be cost effective in order for them to get going. What's kind of limiting adoption right now is any type of complexity that really inhibits it. And we'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. But as you can see from a Thinaer perspective, sorry, that was my fault, Prankett. Let's go back to the other slide. You're trying to move me along. So Thinaer is established in the verticals that we've got listed here: defense, aerospace, manufacturing, healthcare, CPG. We're about to add a logo for automotive as well, as we're working on an implementation there. But basically, the use cases are the use cases, right? So we can span all verticals. Next. So, we're talking, so again, it's about getting data into the platform so you can make informed decisions, right? So if you go from left to right here, Thinaer can provide all of these things from left to right. So for example, as you all know, assets need to be tagged with sensors to get the data out of them. So we support active BLE sensors, passive tags, cellular sensors. And we, from an ability standpoint, there's 40 plus abilities like tracking of location, temperature, humidity, amperage, voltage, open, close, and there's many, many more things that we track today within our customer base by using the sensors on different assets. As it goes to the infrastructure, what we're talking about right now in the IoT space is really Wi-Fi type solutions, Wi-Fi that's installed in the different manufacturing areas, plants, et cetera. So the goal for us, honestly, is to really minimize any type of editing that needs to be done to the business infrastructure itself in terms of having to run cable, having to run power to get things done. So how do we do that? 3 different things, right? So I mentioned earlier about Cisco Meraki, Aruba, and Juniper. So we can use some of their gateways directly as some of their access points directly as gateways. Okay, as long as they accept BLE packets of data, we can use those as gateways, so nothing else needs to be done there. In addition, any other access point typically has a USB port. So I'm holding up here, this is our mini USB gateway. So if it's got a USB port, we can connect one of these into the access point and have the gateway established right there. So again, no additional wiring. Additionally to that, these can also have adapters. So when there's power in the plants, right? So we can actually just plug them in and secure them. So now, once again, you don't need to do anything other than just attach it to the power that's already existing. There's still going to be, depending on how large these places are, there's still going to be areas where there's kind of Wi-Fi dead zones, right? So we also have gateways that are compatible with battery-powered anchors to really extend that reach even further, right? So the objective, honestly, is to be able to go in and within a week or so have an entire manufacturing floor, plant, whatever, wired to do asset tracking and to be able to find an asset within like a meter, right? And we can do that in like a week or so, not months and months and months, and incur tons of dollars from that perspective. So that's the goal that we're trying to hit at Thinaer, is let's get in there and be as fast, easy, and efficient as possible to do business with, and get the application working so you can drive the value. We've already talked about the kind of what we do from an operations perspective, so I'm not going to go back through that again. And we've also talked about the data as a service to get the data to an analytics platform. The only thing I'll add to that is we also send the data to ERP platforms like SAP, Oracle, Infor, those types of organizations. So an organization doing cycle counting can have this information go directly to their ERP solution. So that would eliminate having to shut down plants to do manual cycle counting and things like that. So there's tons of value that can be used with the data being passed. Okay, next one. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The three main use cases that we deal with: environmental monitoring, asset tracking, machine utilization. I mean, that's typically what we deal with in all of the different organizations. And rather than me talk about it, I really would rather have Garrett and Bryce talk about it from a practical use standpoint. So with that, in the next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Garrett. And Garrett's going to talk about the Unilever experience with IoT, with Thinaer, how they've done, where it's going. So let's turn it over to Garrett.
Yeah, thanks, Bob, for the intro. Nice to meet everyone here, and happy to share Unilever's experience so far with Thinaer. So just to give a quick intro, my name is Garrett Gilliard. I am part of our nutrition business group for North America. Prior to my current role, I was serving as our pilot plant manager, so responsible for we have a 37,000 square foot facility in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, that deals with all of our foods business and our ice cream business. So there's a lot of news currently about Unilever that I'm sure some of you have probably seen. So some changes are coming over the next couple of years, but for now, our ice cream and our foods business are all still together and part of Unilever. So we do work kind of across all of those categories to do scale up, scale down, and do a tremendous amount of development work and processing work. So if you can run to the next slide here. So as a facility, we've definitely faced some challenges over the years, particularly around our data acquisition capability. And that's kind of what led us to do some investigative work and brought us to Thinaer's doorstep. So we really, from a equipment perspective, have a ton of capability. However, a lot of it is reaching kind of a point in its lifespan where we've had it for a significant amount of time, and we don't necessarily have the most up-to-date equipment and data acquisition capability. So we're really looking for a solution to help build out some of that that capability. And some of the things that you can obviously see here that we've been facing, which is the lack of availability of that data, particularly from our processing equipment, some inefficient equipment maintenance scheduling, so not having the true understanding of when we should be conducting our maintenance activities, and then kind of old and outdated manual reporting being done on our actual processing equipment data. So having actual developers, process engineers using handheld monitors, probes to collect physical, data streams. So with that, we obviously were looking for Thinaer to provide kind of a solution for us that we could really, use and implement pretty quickly. So that was one of our key drivers of working with the team is Thinaer almost provides kind of an off-the-shelf solution for data acquisition, in the sense that you purchase their gateways, you purchase their beacons or their sensors, and you can pretty much install and set up and get data right away. So that's in essence what we did, and we did it in a pilot setting, basically. Characterizing a small section of our pilot facility, we acquired several pressure sensors, some temperature sensors, environmental sensors, vibration sensors, just to fully characterize a particular processing setup and see what data we could collect and how usable it was for our process. Some of the perks and the keys of working with the Thinaer team were it's really low cost entry point. So we have some globally approved technology solutions that Unilever provides, but unfortunately for our site, we deemed that they would be somewhat cost prohibitive for us, in the sense of getting set up for the physical sensors themselves, but also to kind of put our site online, so to speak. It was quite an investment that we did not feel like we were ready to make it at that time. Furthermore, the self-service enablement, so really being able to install sensors where we needed them was kind of a key point. And then getting set up really quickly, like I said, once we had all of the beacons, once we had all the gateways, it was really easy to set everything up and really get data right away. So, and we saw some pretty much immediate value from using the Thinaer solution. So obviously, shifting our process from a very manually recorded data setup to almost an automated data setup was tremendous in saving us kind of man or labor hours for each processing trial that we would run. So estimated over 50 hours or so a week, just in regards to who's collecting the data and right, not having to have quite so many different people there to manually record various data streams. Also a reduction in waste. So we're estimating roughly 10% from repeat trials that we would have to conduct in order to kind of achieve the right process settings that we were looking for. Now we have that capability to get inline data streams, and we can basically achieve our steady state processing much quicker without kind of that startup shutdown kind of waste that we'd be generating normally. Can you advance the next slide? And then just to talk a little bit about where we're going with this. So for our current site, we've obviously started in this pilot capacity, but we're looking at other use cases across the facility and where we can expand and see some pretty quick or immediate value. So we've already started to connect some sensors in other parts of the facility to collect things like data, or to collect things like temperature, environmental data, temperature and humidity. And then we're looking at some other use cases that we can further expand to, and how that could potentially benefit our site. Obviously, with this added, with these added sets of data streams, we're also collecting kind of this data repository that potentially could feed other enterprise systems that we currently use at the site. So we work with a few other technologies to help kind of facilitate processing in our pilot facility, and we're looking at how we can basically merge these systems together to generate some really valuable information that we can use for analytics purposes. And then lastly, obviously, like I just said, leverage that data to start building more advanced analysis tools. So how can we mirror some of these technologies, or merge some of these technologies together to generate really, advanced analytics to help with our maintenance, to help with our, basically processing and steady state, processing trials. So yeah, that's where we're headed. And I'll hand it off back to Bob or to Bryce.
Yeah, thanks for that, Garrett. Quick intro. I know you heard me earlier, but I'm Bryce Markley. I'm VP of Product Development here at Thinaer. It's really cool stuff that Garrett and his team are doing at Unilever. I'm going to talk more about some of our other customers and some of our big key use cases. We have 3 that I'm going to highlight in here. The first one, if you want to advance, is actually around asset tracking. Asset tracking, if you go to the next slide, Pronkit, I'll hit on these all 3, but it's our core use case for the most part. This is a core use case to IoT in general. It's not as cool or doesn't have the buzzwords maybe that some of these other use cases and some of the cool stuff that Garrett and his team are doing. But the ROI on asset tracking is still massive just because of the massive scale of it. So as you heard earlier, we are tracking hundreds of thousands of assets at a single customer now, tens of thousands at other clients as well. The scale of this can be very large. And this isn't just for, hey, I want to, I lost an asset, let me track it down. Now, there is huge value in that. Losing assets is an issue for everyone. This is also for reducing the amount of time it takes to find tools, parts, or components as well, as that is usually a big time suck as well. It's also for improving current processes. So some great examples we've seen with our data where it's being pushed to other systems is around tracking calibrated tools. When they're up for calibration, there's usually a whole process that's been historically built around finding these tools, going through manual logs, finding who had it last, where it was last, and just kind of playing detective work from there. Some of our clients, what they're doing today, it's been really cool to see, is the email that goes out to the team working on the calibration actually receives links to where the assets are located. So now they go directly to those areas, pick up those tools, perform the work, put them back, it's over. So their process has been greatly improved doing that. Populating ERP systems like you heard earlier between SAP, Oracle, and others. Again, instead of manual processes saying this is where this tool was, this is where this part was, this component, now it can be auto-populated. So they can be auto-populated when assets move. This data can be pushed to systems. It can be pulled from our system. We can also display images as well. So again, we added value to those other systems like SAP, where now it's not just it's listed here what room we believe it's in. We'll actually have an image of that map of that floor plant with a dot on that map saying where that asset is currently located. And again, the ROI for this it's massive. So we had a $30 million ROI in just under 3 years with a single client. We've been optimizing their process as well at other sites. A really cool one too that's been somewhat new in the past, I would say about 12 months, is we're now with our asset tracking helping improve curation times or curation periods for manufacturing. We now know when an asset entered an area where it's curating and it needs to be at a certain temperature, we know how long it's been there. So instead of somebody manually always signing off on it hit 8 hours and it's always 8 hours, we can now say this one was there for 7 hours and 30 minutes. This was there for 8 hours and 45 minutes. We can even set off alerts to say it was there for exactly 8 hours, alert a large mass of people so they know that it is done curating and can move to the next step of process, which then leads to reduced waste as well. Because now they know, okay, this part did not produce the way it was supposed to. They can go back through the process and see that, well, it curated for 6 hours and 15 minutes. That's the problem. So it's now helping improve their processes. They're able to clean them up. They're also automating it because it's not up to just a human to say, I think it was this amount of time. They can be alerted exactly when it was that amount of time. The next use case that I kind of briefly just now hit on there was on that temperature side. So environmental monitoring. So again, I kind of hit on that there. It's very important to start tracking environmentals and throughout the manufacturing process. We have a number of clients, Lockheed and others, that have started to actually just sprinkle temperature and humidity monitoring throughout their plants so they can get a better understanding of what their temperature and humidity processes are like throughout it. So now they can validate when it was curing, it stayed in a certain temperature range. And then as it moved through the process, what temperature was the asset at as well? So obviously it's extremely important. Everyone knows that they need to track it in certain steps. But now to, again, help reduce waste further, there are low-cost devices that can give them up to the minute temperature and humidity ratings. They can also set alerts proactively to say, if any of these assets down this process ever go past certain degrees Celsius or Fahrenheit, whatever they would like to, they can be alerted of that. So proactively monitoring their environments instead of seeing the end that there was increased waste and now going back, they can actually proactively monitor this as well. So again, this leads to that decrease in raw materials waste as well. And then the next one is on the machine monitoring side, which is a new one that's been growing quite a bit over the past, I would say, 18 to 24 months. One of the big end goals we're working with Lockheed and others is pedigree of a part. So if you know where the part has gone throughout the entire process, if you know what machine produced it, you know the temperature, humidity of everywhere it went along the way, you know how the machine was performing based off vibration, amperage, voltage, temperature, humidity of the compressor. If you know all that data, you can now have that data to see how that part performed at the end. So if a part is supposed to last 18 months but lasted 14 months, they can now retroactively go back and say, okay, how was the machine performing that produced this part? What was the temperature throughout this process? So we're starting to work towards this pedigree of a part, and the base of it is this machine monitoring. Now, at a more simple use case is basic machine monitoring, which today is usually a very expensive process. There's a lot of investment to go into getting this done. What we've done is we are always integrating new low-cost sensors, which is allowing this to be much more simply done. So the same infrastructure that supports asset tracking and environmental monitoring will also support machine monitoring. So they can add as many vibration sensors as they would like. If they want to just start tracking uptime, they just need one. We can track the vibration. You can start to learn of, okay, this level of vibration means this machine is on. So start tracking uptime that way. Have true uptime of your machines. You can also have wired sensors that go to more extreme parts for high frequency vibration. Like I said, temperature or humidity of the compressor. We're tracking the temperature and humidity of walk-in freezers for raw materials and for storage, while also tracking the different components of that refrigerator or freezer as well. So now they can start to get to predicting failure of that walk-in freezer, predicting failure of that machine. So what we've done with our software is we have found the ability that you can see when good runs happen. The people who monitor these machines or these parts know when a good run has occurred. So we work with our clients to say, okay, let's remember this date, time, here's the data from that run. That is now the new standard. So you can then set those alerts right away, day one. So if it exceeds this vibration, exceeds this temperature, humidity, or if it drops below this certain temperature or humidity, you want to be notified. So that way, as a run is going, you're proactively now learning every run if it went out of what you believe is a perfect range. That then, of course, leads to data going to other systems and leading towards large AI initiatives. But we're able to start monitoring machines and start working towards predicting failure day one with our triggers and alerts.
Okay, so again, the Lockheed Martin story is pretty interesting. And here's an interview that we did jointly with Lockheed Martin that really talks about their journey with Thinaer in developing their factory of the future. You can scan the QR code here. If you want us to provide you a link, just let us know. But it's a 9-minute video. I don't think we're going to show it here. But we can, again, you can scan the code and take a look at the video, and there's some really good content in it. So just to kind of summarize everything that's been talked about, Garrett and Bryce both discussed how the solution drives value into the organization, where it reduces cost and waste and improves productivity and timeliness of productivity and different things like that. The one thing that I'll add to that is, asset tracking does provide the biggest bang for the buck in terms of driving a positive ROI. Once the organization is wired for asset tracking, the rest of it is just slapping on sensors, right? So the rest of it really becomes easy, right? So that's the part that takes the most the most effort, so to speak. What we are trying to do here, again, in terms of what we do different, is we really are focused on fast deployments, using the platform within a week or so of the start of the implementation to really get at the use case. The customers and the use cases that we look at, these are basically snowflakes. They're all different. we spend some time to work with them to understand the exact problem that they're trying to solve and work with them on how to get that done. So, again, the evaluation of your proof of concept is thorough, it's fast. Once they're bought in, once they're wired, it's easy then to kind of deploy it throughout the organization. So that's really it from a Thinaer perspective. I'm going to turn it back to Prankit to really talk about kind of the other services that go along with this as well, to really make this a beginning to end type relationship.
Thank you very much for that, Bob. So yeah, I just want to touch upon this kind of end-to-end IoT journey and support piece before we pause for questions. One thing I left out when I was going through the numbers at the beginning was the challenges that, especially in the UK, that organizations have been facing when it comes to going on this IoT journey. So, and as you can see here, 70% of the UK organizations that were surveyed as part of that same study that was conducted in 2023 said that they struggled to find a single partner that had end-to-end IoT expertise. And what this often means for end users is that they end up going to a different supplier when it comes to finding hardware, a different supplier maybe for the software platform, someone else to help put it all together and implement it. And in all of this as well, sometimes, the business case isn't quite built out because they didn't have that one kind of single partner that's taking ownership of the whole project. And so you end up with almost like these tech projects that kind of maybe get to a pilot or POC, but don't really go anywhere beyond that because the business case is just not there, the ROI is just not there, or sometimes they even struggle to get to the pilot stage because of all of these different sort of complexities involved in bringing it all together. And that's why at Ingram, we've built these end-to-end services to help you as an Ingram Micro partner to become that single point of contact for your end users. So, we're starting from the pre-sales, sort of helping understand the use cases that your end user needs to tackle, helping write out that initial business case, so then actually, conducting site surveys, building out the solution architecture, helping you get to a pilot and POC and defining a success criteria off the back of that business case. And then as well as sort of helping you scale. So, when it comes to sort of being on site, physically implementing the solution, configuring it, provisioning it on the platform, and then providing the support afterwards. We've built this end-to-end sort of suite of services. And based on your capabilities and your appetite for building your own services, we can build a joint engagement model where you can rely on Ingram for parts of the services that you want to rely on, and then provide the additional services yourselves. And we'd be very happy to sit down with you and help you map this out and really understand where your capabilities are and how we can help complement them. And to that end, I'd like to invite you all to our Center of Excellence in Milton Keynes, especially if you haven't been to the office, our office before. This could be a good opportunity to come visit us. And we can spend a day with you, like I said, map out your capabilities, overlay that with our capabilities, really help you build a joint go-to-market, but also help you sort of see where you want to take it, right? How deep or broad you want to go with some of these solutions. It's also an excellent opportunity for you to really see solutions like Thinaer in action, really see all the beacons that Bob was talking about, the sensors, the gateways. We can show you how that works, and we can show you the solution up and running in action to give you a feel for how you would want to take it to your end users. And we do both sales-focused sessions as well as technical workshops. But again, at an initial stage, I'll invite you, come over, let's have a chat. Let's explore what you want to do and how we can help you and enable you in this IoT journey. So yeah, thank you very much for joining at this stage. I know we had a lot of ground to cover. We went over various different bits and pieces. I wanted to stop here now for any sort of questions or feedback that anyone has.
So yeah, if anyone wants to use the Q&A feature or the chat feature to pop their questions in, feel free to. If not, we'll make sure that we send an email around summarising some of the stuff that we've gone through on today's webinar. Thank you, everyone that's presented. Done a really good job.
If you don't have any questions, I encourage you to write to us. Like I said, you can book a session with us. Let's meet face to face, and let's help you kind of plan out this journey and figure out how we can help you take these solutions to your end users. Awesome. I think we can end there then.
Absolutely. Thank you very much again, guys. Appreciate that.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.